So guys, I know I've somehow managed to skip this series entirely for about 2 months now, but by popular demand, it's back. Welcome to Best Android Games, February 2017. So just before we get straight into the video, I had a recent epiphany that I have a lot of spare smartphones, and what better thing to do than to give them away to you guys. So if you are interested in winning, all you need to do is to 1. Subscribe, 2. Turn on notifications, and 3. Comment down below which one you're interested in. Rules are in the description. So, game number 1 is chess, and whilst on the face of it might look like a spelling mistake, it's actually a revolutionary new concept. Yes, it's essentially chess, but instead of moving pieces one at a time, you move them in a giant free-for-all. Each move has a certain cooldown, but you can move as many pieces as you want simultaneously, and the end goal is to take their king. It combines a familiar concept with a refreshing idea and an interesting adventure woven into it. So then we've got Beat Racer, definitely one of the better musical rhythm titles I've ever played. You're essentially a futuristic looking spaceship in something that resembles a Tron Legacy galaxy. You try to escape an increasingly difficult horde of enemies, and you do so by collecting these gems, and you have to do it within rhythm, which is what makes it so interesting. And this game is beautiful. It's beautiful visually, but also musically. Just listen to this. Next up, Epic Battle Simulator, one of the most refreshing takes on a war game I've seen on a mobile device. And the title pretty much says it all. You assemble an army based on a budget and a troop limit, fight against an increasingly difficult wave of enemies, and watch it all happen. Whilst you don't really control the action itself, it's all in the planning, and the satisfaction comes from watching your army tear apart theirs. And it's satisfyingly tactical. You want to put your damage absorbing units further forward, and your more vulnerable gunners further back. So undoubtedly after the recent success of Pokemon Go, the company is back at it again, this time with a slightly different concept. This is Pokemon Duel, and I suppose the best way to describe it is almost like a board game. You create decks of increasingly powerful Pokemon, and you test your wits against increasingly powerful foes. It's a pretty simple game mechanic, but it works surprisingly well, and the strategy is deeper than it looks to begin with. A nice addition is the ability to fuse Pokemon to make them more powerful than they were originally. That keeps the longevity of the game going, and there's also a store if you fancy progressing a little bit faster, let's say. So coming in at number 5, we have a very simple game. This is called Sand, and it's not a new idea at all. In fact, I kind of remember faintly 10 years ago playing this kind of game on Miniclip. You're a master of the elements, and the fun comes with seeing how they interact with each other. You could start building a forest using grass and water, and then set fire to it using napalm or C4. It really is more fun than it sounds. Next up, an extremely clever idea. This is a game called 12 Orbits, and until you see it in action, I don't think you'd believe this is a 12-player multiplayer title playable on one smartphone. Each person controls a certain coloured orb, and the goal is to convert as many of the unconverted orbs to your colour. It has a similar style of play to games like Agario. It's casual, it's easy to pick up, and it's extremely competitive. Rolling in at number 7, we've got Square Dance, a game that starts out like a very casual, very zen title and quickly becomes brain-crushing. Your goal is to line up and then squeeze together squares of the same colour. And it's tricky, it really is quite tricky. And by the time you've hit sort of level 20, you'll be scratching your head and wondering what you've got yourself into. Next up is Dancing Line, and in a similar vein to Beat Racer, it also tests your musical rhythm capability, but in a more direct sense because the game is made such that even if you close your eyes and listen to the music and tap accordingly, you could technically get your way through these levels. There isn't too much in the way of unlocking new content, but the controls are simple, the graphics are nice, and the soundtrack is amazing. So at number 9, we've got Symmetria. Half game, half brain training, it tests the lateral parts of your thinking. You're given one side of a puzzle and you've essentially got to complete it by mirroring it. And whilst it sounds simple, as soon as you introduce time constraints, as well as more complex levels, it really is quite testing. There's a good selection of levels to get through, and also the ability to play multiplayer on a single device. So then we've got Super Slam. And for those of you who remember Pogs, this is essentially that. It was sort of a childhood favourite playground game, and it's never been better on Android. You essentially line up your striker, the large token, and slam it into the pile of other tokens. The more you knock over, the more you keep, and that's the objective. And the interesting dynamic, the little twist on it, is when you play against others, you play for keeps. The tokens you win, you keep, the tokens they win, they keep. It's an interesting dynamic. So guys and girls, thanks a lot for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, if you could smash that subscribe button, that would really mean a lot to me. And with that being said, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.